into the New Orleans Saints Postgame Show presented by Mercedes-Benz. Your Saints come out with a win over division rival Carolina Panthers 27-24. As you can see, Saints fans coming out of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome with smiles on their face. JD, I kind of feel like we're in the same position we were in Week 5 against the Chargers, where it was a gritty win, but a win's a win.
Well, this one might be even more dire than that one because of who you were missing. Both starting wide receivers, Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. This team has adjusted to playing without Michael Thomas because they've done it for 5 consecutive games now. But they hadn't adjusted to playing without Emmanuel Sanders until today. We saw some big catches from Marquez Callaway. Drew Brees probably played one of the better games of his last 3 or 4 seasons, considering the situation with the weapons that he did not have. Alvin Kamara was Alvin Kamara. He was outstanding. But I thought Drew Brees really ran this offense masterfully, and the defense struggled at points. Don't even mistake that at all. But they got some critical stops when they needed to down the stretch. Marcus Davenport, with his first sack of the season, turned out to be huge because it basically pushed Carolina out of field goal range to where they could tie this game. So the Saints basically able to gut one out, stay lockstep with Tampa Bay in the loss column, and that's huge.
We'll be hearing from head coach Sean Payton and quarterback Drew Brees and several other Saints players in a minute once they get to the podium, but we're going to continue our analysis until then. JD, you mentioned Alvin Kamara for this team, 65 receiving yards on 8 receptions, 83 rushing yards. It seems like even more than in years past. We know he was dealing with that injury last year, but he really seems to be finding his rhythm and his comfort within this offense.
Well, he had lower body injuries last year, so he worked to strengthen those this year, and we're seeing it in his play. He's hard to get on the ground, especially if it's one guy. He converts a 3rd and 14, and a critical spot for the Saints late in this game. They're able to come out of that drive with a field goal. There's nothing that he can't do offensively when you need him to, whether it's catch passes or run between the tackles, whether it's inside or outside. He catches screen passes. He's extremely valuable to what this team does. For my money, of course I'm biased, he is the offensive player of the year in the NFL because of his value to this offense.
JD, I believe, I'm looking at the stats right here, I believe Brees hit 8 different receivers today, including Deontay Harris, who you mentioned before the game the Saints might expect to step up, and it seems like he did today for the Saints.
Yeah, Drew Brees is going to spread it around. If you try to take one thing away, he's going to find where the weakness is. The Saints had to give him the proper protection to be able to do that because we've seen what happens in games where he doesn't get that protection. He gets rushed a little bit, gets off his marks, and then he's not as accurate. But I thought the offensive line, save for a play or two, James Hurst got beat on a tackle, on a sack that ended up in a fumble. But other than that, I thought the offensive line played extremely well, considering Teron Armstead leaves this game with an arm injury. He's out for the whole second half, and we don't know his status going forward.
What were your thoughts on James Hurst, JD, the Saints offensive lineman who they had to bring in for Teron Armstead? Obviously, he's been playing with Baltimore for the last few seasons. What were your thoughts on what he did for this offensive line today?
Well, he struggled in spots. I mean, he gave up that big sack. He also had a holding penalty later on, an illegal motion penalty later on in the game. So, he had some moments that were not shining bright, but you can expect that because he doesn't get the reps with that first string unit that other players in that first string unit get together. So you hope, if he's going to be the guy that's going to be called upon to do that next week against Chicago, you hope that he'll get those reps in practice this week, hopefully get the synergy down and get synced with that offensive line, and maybe you won't have some of those errors carry over into the next week.
Looking at the Saints defensive line, it's something that we've been talking about, it seems like, in the postgame show game after game through these 7 weeks. The defensive pressure. Now, the Saints only had 1 sack today, a huge sack from Marcus Davenport, but it seemed like the pressure was there. They just couldn't get to Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I mean, you get there, you don't get him on the ground, and that's going to be the frustrating thing for this defense, that they were able to surround Teddy Bridgewater several times, get a hand on him a few times, and weren't able to get him on the ground until that late sack by Marcus Davenport, which turns out to be huge.
JD, I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
If you're the Saints,
you have Sean Payton here at the podium. Here we go.
Absolutely.
Coach, go ahead, guys.
Sean, what
did you see about that field goal at the end? How close was that from your vantage point?
Well, two things. Obviously, he hit a great kick. You know, from my vantage point, I'm looking to just see the trajectory, because a lot of times you might be able to get your hands on, you know, a kick of that length. He's got a strong leg. I think, he hit it, and fortunately for us, a couple of yards short. I thought the sack, obviously, on third down was critical, and it put him in a much different position. It was a good win.
Sean, what about Marquez Callaway's game gives him the ability to find open areas of the field and make plays like he did today?
Well, I mean, look, chances are he played well today. If he's finding open areas, it's probably because it's zone. If it's man, you know, we're moving. But we saw him have a good training camp, and we've seen him progress. You know, a handful of guys were stepping up today and playing maybe in different roles they're used to, and that's just part of the deal right now.
John, I thought that sequence right before halftime was really big for you all, getting the score.
I agree. Obviously, you'd have been happy if it was just a field goal. We were right at the cusp there with 5 seconds, you know, with the possible end zone play, and you know, we had leverage outside. Inside, we had inside leverage. Drew did a great job of finding Deontay, and I agree with you. That probably was a game-winning drive that we just didn't know it at the time.
Hey, Sean, I apologize if they already asked this, but what was it like just having fans in here today?
Look, it was good. You noticed it a little bit. You know, 3,000. We'll keep adding as we go, but you certainly felt a little bit more juice in the stadium than normal.
Hey, Sean, how important was that first drive, just getting out there? I mean, you guys took up half the first quarter, 14 plays, and just like without Mike and Emmanuel in there, just kind of set that tone early.
Look, I thought we ran the ball well. I don't know. We kicked a couple too many field goals, but I don't know that we punted. I can't recall a game where we didn't punt, and I felt like it went fast. Obviously, I don't know what time it was on the clock when we hit halftime, but that first half felt like the first quarter, and part of that was both teams were really moving the ball. Yeah, the opening drive was really important.
Was time of possession part of your strategy today to, you know, keep the ball away from their offense?
Well, I don't know if it was going in like we felt like first and second down was going to be important against this defense. And if we could stay on schedule, our success rate on the third downs would be that much better. We got into some third and longs, particularly in the second half. And yet, you know, we won a handful of statistics. We didn't win the turnover statistic, but a lot of the others we did.
What was it sort of like just seeing Teddy on the other sideline?
Pardon?
What was it like just kind of watching Teddy Bridgewater after having coached him for the past 2 seasons?
Look, I don't remember him moving that good. He got out of some tough looks, and he played well. Made a lot of big plays in the passing game. He extended some plays. We had opportunities maybe to with the free rusher, and we just got to be better in those situations. But it's a much different offense. You can see, obviously, they're playing with confidence, and you know, I think he had maybe 3 incompletions the whole day.
Sean, are you willing to talk about, I heard at one point Teddy and you on the sideline kind of sharing something back and forth. Any chance you're willing to share with us what that exchange was?
I think he felt like we had a penalty and he was right. And then I felt like they had a penalty and I was right. So he saw one flag, I saw the other. It was offsetting. We had to play the down again. That was all.
Did you see the improvement you wanted to see out of the defense coming out of the bye with some of the coverage rust and just organization and stuff like that?
We've got obviously some work to still do. I think we played the run extremely well, not so much in the passing game.
Hey, Sean, did you find it at all ironic that you were just talking to us on Thursday about not being able to control things in this crazy year, and then probably hours afterwards, you guys find out that you're going to be down 2 receivers this weekend? I mean, it's almost kind of crazy at this point.
Yeah, look, one thing we know is the games are going to be played. There's a couple other teams dealing with some pretty extreme adversity, and honestly, no one else outside your building really cares. So I'm proud of how our guys focused and found a way to get the win.
Sean, I know it took a little bit to be able to get Davenport back for you guys, but that sack seemed pretty huge on that final play. I mean, it seemed like you needed every inch on that kick.
Well, based on the field goal attempt that I saw, that even if we sacked them for 2 yards less, it was a good chance that was going to go in. Obviously, it was a big play defensively. They're kind of in field goal range, and all of a sudden it puts them right on the edge. That was significant.
Sean, how did you all adjust, you and the offensive staff, late in the week to losing, Emmanuel Sanders and not having Mike Thomas and tailoring the offense around what you had?
So on Thursday, we find out about the positive test. Now, the challenge at that time after practice is, 20 to 25 people we decided to put through the point of care test. So, just kind of put us back time-wise, and then probably till about 9 or 10, we went through all of the personnel relative to first and second down. We had just practiced third down with Emmanuel. And so we got to the red zone and the goal line stuff. It was a late night, 3 a.m., I think, on Thursday night. And just trying to get guys into positions they're comfortable with and had experience with. And Marquez has been playing some, and obviously he played well. Traquan, all those guys that stepped up. We had a handful of base personnel in the plan because of the type defense we were seeing. And yet, it was up to not just one person, but a lot of people. It took a little time on Thursday night.
Sean, you guys went 12 of 14 on third down today. If you remember having a performance that well or that good?
No, listen, I wouldn't have guessed we went 12 of 14. We had a few long yardage situations. I knew we didn't punt, and there were a couple red zone sequences. Obviously, the penalty on the touchdown pass to Marquez. I don't see that. That's too bad. So we had to settle for a field goal. And look, there'll be some things I'm sure we look at we can improve on.
John, in a COVID year like this, Callaway contributing the way he has and being undrafted, I mean, is he a guy who's kind of beating the odds that maybe you didn't even think could do something like this given the circumstances?
Look, I'm honestly speaking, man, he had a real good training camp, and we felt optimistic about having him. A few of these younger guys, and fortunately, we've been able to find some players like that. It's tougher for a first-year guy without the normal off season, but he stepped up.
Sean, when you lose Tehran in the second quarter, do you have to actually change what you do in offensively after that, or is Hurst just kind of plugging in and you guys do the same thing?
Well, look, a little both. I think you got to be cautious. They've got some pretty good edge rushers. They got us once on a sack fumble. Your game plan is going to stay the same, but some of the stuff you're doing maybe with Hurst that was going to be in the plan and Jumbo is going to change a little bit. And, we were able to do some of that with Clapp at the end there. But there are a few things that might change a little bit. But overall, it's not a big change. Obviously, it's a tough loss with a guy like Toronto. All right, thank you, guys.
JD, a little birdie told me that before the game, somebody asked you about offensive rhythm, and then after the game, the Saints were 12 and 14 on third down. I would say that's pretty good offensive rhythm. I don't know. The bird flew away, though.
Well, yeah, the bird had no idea what he was talking about. Just got lucky. Every bird finds a seed every now and then. That's how that works. But yeah, 12 of 14, phenomenal. One of those conversions was 3rd and 14 to Alvin Kamara. Another one was 3rd and 8, I think, to maybe Marquez Callaway. However those conversions changed, I was saying originally in this game, got into some favorable down and distance situations. In 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2, the ones you expected them to be able to convert. I think Drew Brees' touchdown run was the 3rd and 1 leap over the top. So they got themselves into some really good situations. But even when they got themselves into some dicey positions, they were able to convert. Huge, it turns out, in this game, because they end up with 34 plus minutes in time of possession. They keep the ball away from Carolina, and that enables them to keep their defense off the field, get that offense on the field. The offense, as Sean Payton mentioned, didn't punt, so they're able to cash in this entire game except for that sack fumble.
Did Drew look a little bit more like himself? And I believe we might have a player coming to the podium here in a second. Yep, it's Marcus Davenport. Let's go ahead and check him out.
Marcus, I asked you what it was going to be like potentially to be able to sack your former teammate in Teddy Bridgewater, and you were able to. So what's it feel like in hindsight now?
Getting sacked, and especially your first of the season, is always like, one of those things that you feel like you got to get out of the way. But, it's just really great to be able to help out the team, especially in that time.
Next question's from Luke Johnson.
Yeah, Marcus, just knowing that, that 65-yard field goal attempt that followed, it only missed by like a yard or two. How important was that sack, pushing him that far back?
Just one of those things. It's kind of just how it played out, and like you said, it was a good point in the game, and should we won, so real important.
Next question from Amy Just.
What did you see there that allowed you to kind of break through? That was the first sack and the only sack of the game.
Game closer. That's what he does. Oh, coming off that edge. Lord.
It was just one of them things, we drew it up, and, we had to execute, and that was just mainly it. From there, you just got to execute.
All right, I think we're all set. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we have Alvin Kamara. Put your questions in the chat, and I will call on you. First question's from Jeff Duncan.
Hey, Alvin, what did you think? Were you watching that last field goal attempt by Carolina, and did you get a good vantage point on it?
Yeah, I had a good vantage point. It was a long field goal, and kudos to him, even though he missed it. He got a hell of a leg. We were obviously hoping for the miss. We got the miss, and we were able to close out the game.
Next one's from Nick Underhill.
Alvin, how did you keep your foot in bounds on that third down? Did you see the sideline? Like, that just seemed impossible, and somehow you managed to make it happen.
Yeah, I seen the sideline, and, I just kind of took a picture of it and then kind of tried to reach the ball. I knew the defender was coming in he had a good angle on me to tackle me. I know as long as I got the ball across that stick, that we would be good. So, they reviewed it. They ain't have enough evidence. We got further down.
Next one's from Luke Johnson.
Hey, Alvin, how big was that opening drive, just knowing who you guys were missing today, to just go out and kind of establish the tone with the big, long touchdown drive to start?
Man, we had a great week of practice. Guys, everybody has a job to do. No matter who's in, who's out, guys got to step up and execute, and that's what happened. We did that, had to put a good drive together, did what we had to do. And, I feel like we did a good job. The guys that stepped up did a good job.
Next one's from Sean Fazend.
Hey, Alvin, just the 2-minute drive to close out the first half seemed like a pretty big drive as well. You talk about that drive as well?
I think 2 minutes, I'll put us against any defense. We're locked in on 2 minutes. We got calls that we want to get to. I think we practice it more than anything. So going in there, we're confident. We know the looks we want to get to. And I mean, we just had to execute. We went ahead and drove down and got a score that was big before the half.
Next one's from Jeff Duncan.
Alvin, you all dominated time of possession. You really were very high conversion rate on third down. Do you feel like the offense is starting to find an identity, starting to find yourselves like the offense we're used to seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just about efficiency. You know, we're being able to run the ball efficiently. I mean, which eats up the clock. Obviously, we're getting the looks in the pass game that we want. You know, we're getting the ball down the field. Everybody's stepping up. Everybody's doing their job. You know, it's still some things we got to clean up. It's not the best game we played, but it's a win. You know what I'm saying? Nobody asked about, you know, how we won or how we lost. They just want to know if it was a win or a loss. So we won. I'm sure there's some things we got to clean up on the field tomorrow. We'll get that cleaned up and we're moving on to the next.
Next one's from Rod Walker.
Hey, Alvin, I know it wasn't 70,000, but what was it like just to have some fans cheering? I saw you kind of getting into it with, you know, getting them hyped with 2 minutes left.
I was waiting on somebody to ask that. I mean, I don't care how many fans. I mean, it was if it was 10, if it was 1,000, it was 3,000. I mean, you know, it's just good to have some people back in there. You know, I mean, everybody's itching to get back into the stadium. Hopefully next game we can have 10,000, 20. I don't know, but I mean, it's just good to see those fans back out there. I mean, I think we enjoy having them as much as they enjoy being there. So, you know, it's definitely a huge advantage. They brought some noise today.
Last question's from Mike Triplett.
Alvin, Sean mentioned that they stayed up late Thursday night after realizing that Emmanuel Sanders was going to be out, kind of tweaking the game plan. How much did you recognize that as a player, that there were game plan changes being put in as late as Friday this week?
You know, I think I would like to say I'm pretty tuned in to game plan week in and week out. You know, it was a couple of tweaks, but for the most part, guys stepped up and, you know, they took Emmanuel's place and did what they had to do. You know, they knew it was shoes to fill. I mean, Shorty B made some great plays. Deontay Harris, Marquez Callaway. You know, guys just did what they had to do. That's the name of the game. It's a team sport. You know, just because one person goes down doesn't mean the game is over. We got the, you know, it's next man up mentality.
We're all set. Thank you, AK.
Yeah.
All right, we have Marquez Callaway. First question is going to be from Amy Just.
Yeah, big smile there for you. How do you feel that you played today, especially just knowing you got thrown into the game plan again, even bigger than you did last 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, like Alvin said, next man up mentality. You know, we go in each week practicing, preparing for anything, and that's what happened this week. You know, with Emmanuel going down and Mike not being able to play this week. So just like Alvin said, next man up. You know, I think Juwan did a great job when he got in there. You know, it's his first play, his first start, and I was happy for him. And we just went out there and had fun.
Next one's from Catherine Terrell.
Hey, congrats on the big game. Are you doing okay after limping to the locker room towards the end of the game?
Yeah, I'm good. You know, I just got a little dinged up, but it's all good. Thank you.
Next one's from Mike Triplett.
Because a lot of people are pointing out on Twitter today that your number 12 is the same number that Marcus Colston famously wore for the Saints. I was curious if somebody mentioned that to you early in training camp, since he's like the most famous dark horse to emerge here, or if that 12 had any significance to you, knowing you were wearing such a famous Saints player's jersey number when you realized that the first time.
Well, obviously everybody knows who he is, and coaches and players, even players told me as soon as I got here when they found out I was wearing number 12. But I think the coaches, RC and CJ, the receiver coaches, told me it was some big shoes to fill. But, you know, ain't no backing down. I'm ready to step up to the challenge and have fun doing it. So,
next one's from Nick Underhill.
It seemed like you did a really good job getting open against their zone coverage and just finding those soft spots. Is that something that's always been the strength of your game? And you know, is that some, or is that just more of a function of how the offense was designed?
I mean, we practice for everything. You know, if we know it's a lot of game planning. You know, Coach Duke does a lot of. They stay up late, like you said earlier. They stay up late game planning against whoever we got next, and we go in each week knowing what we're getting. So we knew this was a big zone team, and we knew it was a lot of zone coverage. So we just went out there with the mindset of playing zone. So we know how to get open during zone, and that's just how the game went.
Next one's from Luke Johnson.
Hey Marquez, do you feel like you're comfortable with Drew? And like, how long did it kind of take you to get there, if you are?
I think we click together pretty good. We go with all the quarterbacks really, with Jameis and Taysom and Drew. We work simultaneously with everybody, so it's not just we go with Drew, because like y'all seen, Taysom getting there and be at quarterback too. So we got to be well with everybody.
Next one's from Jeff Duncan.
Marquez, following up on that, what's it like to have a future Hall of Famer like Drew Brees having the confidence to call your number in these key moments these last few weeks?
It's great. It's great knowing that what Drew has done and what he is doing and what his future would be like. It's great learning from him. He takes the time and after practice and go over things with Juwan and I, just because we're younger and we know, but we don't really know. So just him, Jameis, and Taysom, they take the time after practice to stay after with us to make sure we're caught up to speed with everything. So they will be confident when the time comes, like they have been these past few weeks.
If I could follow up real quick on that, I noticed after y'all's second touchdown drive, he came over to the receivers huddle on the bench and was going over some things with you all, the receiver group. What's going on there? Y'all just trying to get on the same page?
Yeah, like I say, he teaches us pretty much all the time. So what we see when we're out there, he sees something probably different. He comes in and lets us know that we got to let us know that, hey, maybe we can slide over a little bit more. Maybe you can run out the break, just things like that. So he tells us what he sees. So next time we go out there, it'll be even more efficient.
That wraps it up. Thank you, Marquez.
Thank y'all.
All right, we have Demario Davis. Put your questions in the chat, and I'll call on you. First question's from Jeff Duncan.
Demario, last two games, you all have made a big stop to get off the field and kind of seal the game. What's that feel like now to be able to do that, to close out a game?
In this league, you got to find a way to win. We want to be a team that plays good complementary football. When you get in the end of games, you have to find a way. Whether the offense on the field last, whether we on the field last, you got to rise up and be ready to meet the challenge. In the past 2 weeks, we were able to do that. That's going to help us a lot, as far as confidence and motivation and building as we go down the stretch.
Next one's from Luke Johnson.
Demario, what did you see on that on that Marcus Davenport sack that kind of iced it there?
I was in coverage, so I was looking at my man. I didn't see what happened.
Okay, so if you didn't see it, what's your reaction when you realized that he came up with just that huge, perfect stop at the big moment there?
Yeah, that's a big play. In the sack zone, which is right outside the red zone. So getting a sack, as they're getting ready to approach the red zone, getting a sack down there, you knock them right outside of field goal range, was huge. That's a game changer. Carolina chose to try to kick it from where they were. It was a good kick, just a little bit short, and put us in position to win the game.
Next one's from Doug Mouton.
Hey, Demario. Marcus also had a big hit on Justin Herbert 2 weeks ago. How much of a difference does he make, especially in the pass rush?
Oh, phenomenal. Great player, great size, great range, quick, strong, does a lot, rushing opposite of Cam Jordan, him, Trey Hendrickson. My D-line has just been playing lights out this year. Continuing what they've been doing in the run game, and when we allow them to pin their ears back, being effective and getting to the quarterback. So that's something that we got to be able to do. That starts with our front, stopping the run and getting pressure on the quarterback.
Next one's from Amy Just.
Yeah, with Marcus having that sack today, just how big is that for a guy who's trying to work his way back from an injury that kept him out for so long?
Yeah. Anytime,
in this business, guys have been playing at a high level for a long time. And so anytime they not able out there to be able to be out there on the field competing with their brothers and performing at the level that they used to, it's tough. And it just shows his dedication, his work ethic to be back out there and pick up right where he left off.
Next one's from Mike Triplett.
How much pride are you guys taking in this run defense? It seems like you guys are getting stingier by the week and making teams one-dimensional. But then on the flip side, is any of that, the deep passing plays that continue, is there a balance between, run defense and still being able to not leave, any deep pass plays open while you're concentrating on the run?
Yeah, the goal is always perfection and always chasing excellence, right? We've been able to do that, in the run game, continue to grow in the pass game. I think, from the game and the way it's evolved has made it a lot easier to pass the ball. DBs and defensive players can't touch guys as far. They're going to be a lot easier to get holding calls and pass interference calls. It's a lot more concepts, to defend. And so, it's not as easy to be stingy in the pass game as it probably once was. And so, plays are going to happen. But I think in this league, the best defenses are the ones that, try to find a way to get a stop when they count most, being effective in situational football and creating takeaways.
All right, we're all set. Thank you, Demario.
Thank you. Guys, be blessed. Thank you.
All right, we have Cesar Ruiz. Put your questions in the chat, and I'll call on you. First question's from Amy Just.
When Teron goes out in the second quarter, does that change things for y'all as to how you're blocking and how you're communicating with each other?
No, not really. It's definitely different when Teron, leader like Teron goes out. But we all take a lot of reps together, and with the communication is always there.
Next question's from Luke Johnson.
Cesar, how big was that opening drive? Just getting the ball and going 14 plays right off the bat and scoring a touchdown there.
It was big. It was a long drive too. I didn't realize that drive was about 10 minutes. So it was great to get the ball, go down there and score first drive. So it was great.
Next one's from Nick Underhill.
Just what's the first 7 weeks of the season been like for you? Just, I know the injury, you missed 21 days, and I'm just kind of trying to settle in and get up to speed. Just what's the process been like for you?
Just grinding every day, really. Taking care of my body, staying on top of the little things, trying to learn as much as I can every single day. And, really just being a sponge, really just learning and, trying to perfect myself every day.
Do you feel like you're still? Do you feel like you're still picking a lot of stuff up? At this point, I know the off season was weird and everything.
Yeah. I think I'm still gonna be picking stuff up. Till I retire. You're gonna learn a lot of different things. So I'm learning a lot of different things from different guys. Every time there's something I don't recognize in practice or little things like that, I'm learning. From those little things right there.
Next one's from Brett Martell.
What did you make of the team's composure and execution on third down today?
We took it head on, really. On third downs, our goal is to go get the first down, and we ain't back down from anything, and we went out there and did everything we could to get the first down.
We're all set. Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you. You have a good one.
Thanks, fella.
All right, everyone, we have Drew Brees. Questions will go in the chat, and I'll call on you. First question's from Sean Fazend.
Hey, Drew, the 2-minute drill before halftime. Just how big was that drive? You got You guys had fallen behind at that point, but to get that drive right before halftime, how big was that?
Yeah, listen, in the grand scheme of things, that was a huge drive. This was one of those games where both offenses were doing a great job of staying on the field, converting third downs, eating up the clock. I mean, I think each one of our drives on both sides were anywhere from, 8, 10, 12, 14 plays, So I think when you look back on it, I think we really only had 6 pretty meaningful drives in this game, with the exception of, the last one where you're just trying to run the clock out. So, those are very few scoring opportunities. So, man, every chance we got to score, we need to put points on the board. So 2-minute drive, we go down, and to be able to get 7 points as opposed to 3, obviously in kind of dramatic fashion there with those last couple plays, that ends up being a huge turning point in the game.
Next one's from Jeff Duncan.
Hey, Drew, you all dominated time of possession. Third down conversions were really high. Earlier this year, you said you all were just scratching the surface of what your potential could be. Where do you think you're at now?
Well, listen, obviously the first 7 weeks here or 6 weeks have been challenging, just in various ways. We've had injuries at times where, young guys have had to step up. Obviously we've, been without Michael Thomas here for, going on 5 games. Emmanuel, being out this game, young guys having to step up and really take on a role where, hey, they're going to be expected to step in and need to really be able to contribute. And I can't say enough about guys like Marquez Callaway and the job that he did today, and really just stepping in Mike's stead. Obviously, Traquan Smith, who is a mainstay, but, man, we've asked him to do so much stuff. Obviously, the guys up front, with having some injuries at times and young guys need to step in or just kind of, fill the void. I think that it's just been one of those deals where, man, each week it's finding a different way to win. Each week it's finding different guys that are having to step up and contribute in ways that maybe they haven't in the past. And yet, man, it's what we need to win the game. And so I can't say enough about just guys' resolve and resilience to be able to do that. And, listen, these last 2 games especially, where it's coming down to the wire, it's coming down to the last drive and just finding ways to make the plays to win the game.
Next one's from Luke Johnson.
Drew, how much do you play personally in that role when you know that by Thursday that Emmanuel's going to be out and by Friday that Mike's going to be out and you're working with guys who weren't part of the game plan when you guys were putting that together on Wednesday?
Yeah, listen, I'll be honest, it's difficult, because you got to sit there and look at the call sheet and you got to look at, the personnel groupings and figure out how you're going to piece it all together. And at the end of the day, put them in the best positions to succeed, right? And it all goes with my thought process too, is kind of knowing where guys are, knowing the little things that I can do throughout the course of the game to help them, right? To instill confidence in them, to allow them to play fast. Again, I just can't say enough about the job that those guys did stepping up and having the games that they did.
Next one's from Mike Triplett.
Drew, sort of a 2-parter. Where does this one rank among the wrinkles you guys have faced this year? Losing the guy who had just caught 12 passes in your last game on a Thursday night after so deep into the install. And then how important is a game like this? Because it does feel like probably your cleanest offensive performance of the season, something I know you guys have been striving toward.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we strive for efficiency. We want to have great balance, play complementary football. And I felt like we possessed the ball really well. Obviously, the third downs were crucial because that allows you to stay on the field. What I liked was there was a lot of third and short situations, so you get in a third manageable by being good on first and second down, taking advantage of, those short completions or, man, that run play that's going to get you 3 or 4 yards. Those are good, positive plays. Those set you up for success on third down. We got in a couple third and long situations based on penalty or what have you, and we're able to overcome a few of those, which was obviously huge too because those drives resulted in points. But listen, anytime you don't punt and you're either scoring touchdowns or kicking field goals, that's a good thing.
Next one's from Nick Underhill.
Drew, that third down from Alvin where he kept his foot in and managed to stretch over. Is there things about his body control that surprised you, or is that stuff expected at this point?
No, I mean it's always pretty amazing. Throughout the course of the game, you probably don't appreciate it just because you're on to the next play. But when you go back and look at it, there's not many guys, if any, that can do some of the things that he does.
Next one's from Amy Just.
What was your vantage point on that late field goal? I mean, Marcus Davenport, if that sack would have been, 2 yards shorter, that might have gone through.
Listen, so when they say it's a game of inches, right, or a game of feet, you know, I mean, it really truly is. So just that was obviously a huge play by him to set them back and give them that long field goal. When it came off his foot, you know, it was tracking. So glad it fell short. Glad we were able to get the first down, win the game.
Next one's from Ricardo Lecomte.
Hey, Drew. In that fourth quarter, when Teddy got to the sideline and took a seat between you and Taysom, what was that exchange like? And the follow-up on the second question, just I know you're on the sideline when he's going, but just how he played and how he managed the day. And when you're looking at the stats between you and Bridgewater, you pretty much were two similar guys out there today.
Yeah, you know what? That was just so fitting of Teddy's personality, right? You know, he had to run a long way to take that seat, you know. So, and he knew exactly where we were sitting, right? Me and Taysom. So, popping in between us, I kind of handed him the surface, saying, "Hey, what do you see?" But no, man, we nothing but love for Teddy. And listen, he's a great quarterback. He's an efficient quarterback. You know, I think like you said, you look at the statistics. And what was he, 23 to 28? You know, highly efficient and tons of completions, taking care of the football, taking advantage of the opportunities when they presented themselves down the field. So, can't say enough about it.
Next one's from Rod Walker.
Hey, Drew, I was going to ask you about Teddy too, but I'll ask you about the fans. What was it like just having 3,000 fans in here? Did you notice a difference?
Yeah, I mean, we got some Who Dat chants going. I mean, it was good. Obviously, great to have fans in the building. Would love it if we could have some more. That'd be great. Be great for the team. Certainly, the defense would appreciate it. Get some crowd noise in there. Get this place rocking like it should.
Next one's from Luke Johnson.
Drew, just considering who you guys were missing and the kind of late stuff added to the game plan and all that, how important was it to go out there and go on a 14-play, 10-minute drive to start this game and just kind of set the tone early?
Yeah, again, it was good and it was efficient, and there was a couple third downs in that drive, maybe 3 or 4. So, and just everybody doing their job and execution. Great way to start the game, possess it for quite a bit of time, and come out of it with 7 points.
That wraps it up. Thank you, Drew.
I guess.
All right, we have Thomas Morstead. Put your questions in the chat, and I will call on you.
You guys don't have anything for me?
Well, after.
I'm really sore.
Well, you got to watch. You got to watch the whole game. What were your thoughts on it?
Look, when as long as we're not turning the ball over, I'm great not playing except for holding. So always tell the offense as long as our drives are ending in special teams plays, whether it's a punt, field goal, or an extra point, we'll win a lot of games doing that. So anyways, I'm just playing a joke on Drew. I came to give him his brownies. So appreciate it.
See you, Thomas.
I believe Thomas Morstead, and correct me if I'm wrong, JD, had an interesting story about those brownies, and that his mother that came to every single one of his football games used to make him brownies before games, but recently his mother has moved out of the country, and now his wife and his kids cook those brownies for him, and I guess Drew Brees is in on it. So that's a good snack after the game, if I say so, JD.
Well, to the winners go the spoils. You don't hear those kinds of stories when the team doesn't win. So anytime we can get a brownie story, that kind of brownie, we're all for it.
I love brownie stories. Thomas Morstead tweeted this photo after the game with his quarterback Drew Brees holding up a couple of goose eggs because Thomas Morstead did not punt in today's game. Drew Brees commented on that in his media availability. All right, you heard from the players. You've heard from us, JD. Any thoughts?
Yeah, just a really gritty kind of win for the Saints. I'm going to throw you your flowers while you're here. Carolina did say the offense could get in sync. I will wonder whether they could without the starting receivers. 12 out of 14 on third down. That speaks to it all. But really, they gutted one out. They had a really great time of possession, and you can only do that when you're in sync and when you're converting on third downs. I thought it would, when the season as it progresses, I think we'll look back and say, this was one of the Saints' better wins, all things considered.
All right, thanks for giving me my flowers, JD. There were 3,000 fans inside the Mercedes-Benz Superdome today. We're going to show you some of those fans. Drew Brees commented saying, got some chants going, would love if we could have some more, but it certainly made a difference inside the Mercedes-Benz Superdome as you're seeing those fans who were inside before in previous games. For 2 of the home games, there was 750 friends and family, but recently the Saints were allowed to have 3,000 fans. They certainly made a difference. And of course, it's always great to have Saints fans right here at home in the Dome so that we can have some of that dome field advantage. All right, that'll do it for us here on the New Orleans Saints Postgame Show presented by Mercedes-Benz. We'll leave you with some highlights as the Saints win over the Panthers 27-24.
Right before halftime was really big for you all, getting the score.
I agree. Obviously, you'd have been happy if it was just a field goal. We were right at the cusp there with 5 seconds, with the possible end zone play, and we had leverage outside, inside. We had inside leverage. Drew did a great job of finding Deontay, and I agree with you. That probably was a game-winning drive that we just didn't know it at the time.
Hey, Sean, I apologize if they already asked this.